Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many special nights at WMC, it's hard to pick any out, but one of the wonderful things about doing this job is that over time you get to know musicians better and better the more they come back. And what Adriano won't know yet is that there's a bit of a golden thread where our artists in residence, and particularly the Nimmo artist in residence, named of course after our founding artistic director here, has a special place, particularly because I ask at the end of each residency, each Nimmo artist in residence, who do you think we should have next? And I first met Adriano with Joanna McGregor. Joanna was just doing what Adriano's been doing this year and doing a kind of various projects across the year, which you'll hear about. And I said, Joanna, who do you think we should ask to be our next artist in residence? And she just said, you have to pick Adriano Adewale. So here we are, and we're now coming towards the end of Adriano's residency with us. So, Adriano, just paint a picture for us. Tell us what you've been doing this year and where this evening fits into all of that.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back at the Wiltshire Music Center. And, we've been doing many things. Firstly, we had a collaboration. It was a commission for a piece I composed, and I went to 4 different primary schools, and they wrote the lyrics for that commission. Then we had a rehearsal here, and they also played some percussion instruments. We created a samba piece together. And then on the culmination of that was a concert with 2 great musicians, Jason Rebello and William Sincock, amazing piano players. So we had a concert, and then on that same evening, the kids sang our composition, and they also played the percussion piece, the instrumental piece. And it was wonderful. It was fascinating to see the kids, how the song unfolded. It was about them going from primary school to secondary school. So, they had a great experience in their primary school, but now it's a challenge, it's growing up. It's a rite of passage, really. They going to a completely different world, if you like, making new friends, leaving old friends, completely different environment. So it's not as easy, but they were confident and they were ready for it. And the lyrics they wrote just expressed that. And then after that, we then started planning for this event, which came just here we are. This percussion festival, and I believe...
I'm right in thinking it's come very quickly, because it took quite a long time for us to think about, didn't it?
Sure.
So the gestation period was a long time, but suddenly we are here. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, and it was fascinating. This morning we had 4 great percussionists, Vinicius Barros from Brazil, Bex Birch from England. She was teaching xylophone, and the Jill, the xylophone from Ghana. Oli Savio, Portuguese from Portugal, but he was teaching Cuban music. And also Aloa Nascimento from Brazil, teaching body percussion. We had about 20 participants from all different ages, female, male, beautiful. I couldn't ask for a better start of the festival. And I know it's been a lot of work from everybody from here, from the Wiltshire Music Center. And this evening we have the concert with Hugh Warren and Carlos Malta. And tomorrow we have a master class and also the concert from the old duo. So really, really wonderful. And I think this is, I'm risking to say it is the first ever percussion concert here. So we want to get to the 20th edition, if if I'm alive until there to see it. But even if I am not, I'd love to, from somewhere, to know, this is happening there.
Well, we've had an awful lot of fun so far, and we've got more fun to come. So tomorrow, there's yet more activity. Adriano will be leading a masterclass with some young musicians, and then tomorrow afternoon, to sort of culminate or close the festival, O Duo will be coming and performing a family concert, again a percussion concert, which really makes use of this incredible space. I think more than many musicians that I meet, Adriano, you connect sound with people, and I think having watched the opening of the workshop this morning, we all kind of did a bit of a warm-up and we had a bit of fun, but I think you, as much as anyone I've ever seen, you managed to connect that person with the sound that they are making, and then there's a sharing that goes on. I just wondered if you could just give a few insights into how you do that, and where does that come from?
You know, I believe we are all musicians, everybody in this planet. We all relate to sound. Sound is part of us. And I believe that I like to making, or more, not making people, or I like to support people and to making it, to expose that connection that we humans have to sound and rhythm. From the moment that our heart is beating, yeah, it is music there. Yeah, there is a quote from Stravinsky saying, "Everything that there is rhythm, there is life in everything that there is rhythm." Right? So, and I am exactly there. But sometimes we're so used to music but melodies and then harmonies but sometimes if we draw it like really to the fundamental, the essential, yeah, the essence of it, like this is really deep. And then how do we perceive that depth, only that? Because if this is not there, we are not alive. So what I like is to connect people with that essence. And from there on, you build up. And then when you get then to, like exploring melodies and harmonies and so on, with that in mind, then it becomes a different world, I believe.
So thank you for that. That was very beautiful to hear you explaining some of the things that you think about, and it comes across, of course, it reads to the people who are around you. I'm intrigued this evening that we've got three musicians coming together who are not only performing musicians, they are composing musicians, and they're also teaching musicians. And that sort of kind of special triangle, I think, again, sets you apart from other musicians. Not all musicians, obviously, but you take the seriousness of sharing your art with other people very seriously, but you also compose. So how do you split your brain? I mean, how do you do all those different things? And actually, it's something that everyone who's on stage with you this evening also does. So again, how do you do it?
For me, it's part of it, right? Teaching, composing, and performing, they are all integrated. Actually, when you teach, you also on stage, right? Like so to speak, if you are in a classroom, you are in a position of being on stage. People are looking at you and watching what you do. And when you teach, you also learn. It's as simple as that. You ask any teacher, yes, you learn when you teach, because you have to think of different ways of teaching, right? And in fact, I had a few weeks ago, I had a class which was not easy to teach, right? There was really hard. I was trying to, and then I went home thinking about it. My God, how can I communicate this to them that will make them understand or will support them? And when you had like students that just get it like that, and you go like, yes, very good students. But then I was speaking to my wife, and she said, no, the good students are the ones that make you think really hard. You know what I mean? It's like, because you have to find new ways to make them understanding it. And then you learn. just like on stage, you find new ways of performing, new ways of collaborating, because you want to be creative. And then the composing side of it comes into the mix as well. I think when you are, when you are inventing new ways of teaching, you're composing, learning different ways of thinking about the same thing, yeah? And composing is the same. How can I create this melody in this way? How can I put this rhythm in that way? And then comes the performing, which is, it's a straight, performing is wonderful because it's a straight connection with what is going on here and now. It's not recording. Recording is beautiful, but there is something about now. What you are feeling, what we are feeling, and what we are feeling all together. So I don't tend to split performing, teaching, composing. It's the other way around. I feel the need to have the balance all the time going through. Otherwise, I feel something is missing.
So we've got 3 composers in the room, we've got 3 performers in the room, we've got 3 teachers. So I'm curious to talk about the collaborative process and how you come together. So presumably certain things make certain projects work really well. But in devising this concert tonight, which I know you've worked with these musicians before, but you won't have played this program before, and certainly we're absolutely privileged to have Vinicius Barros, who's travelled a very long way to be with us this evening as well. So how do you build a collaborative project like this, and what are the things that you really think make it work?
You see, the instrument I play, percussion, it's an instrument that most of the times you don't play as a solo. You can, but most of the times it's an instrument that accompanies, right? And I love it because you all the time working with different musicians. And sometimes I can work with drummers, with drum kit players, sometimes without. I can collaborate with other percussionists. And percussion is like colors, you paint with that and so on. So there is a natural tendency for percussionists to collaborate. Mm-hmm. Then I've been collaborating with many musicians in the UK, and I was playing with Christine Tobin, right? Great singer. We did a recording for her, and Hugh Warren was there. So I loved the way he plays and him as a person. And we started doing some collaborations. We did a duo concert not long ago in Wales, and it was fantastic. He loves Hermeto Pascoal, which is a Brazilian composer. I was like, wow, fantastic. Then Carlos Malta. I met him in Austria in a summer school. And we were both teaching, and we just like clicked, and we were like summer school, like it's an intensive course. 1 week, full on, start playing at 9 in the morning. You went whenever, It's like, in 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, you still play music. So I was like, and he was playing, and I was playing, and we were playing together and playing, and the students, yes. And then this opportunity here came about, to do the residency and the percussion festival. And I was like, okay, maybe Hugh Warren and Carlos Malta. Carlos Malta also played with Hermeto Pascoal. And I could just see, like, you can sense the type of people. And then we came on stage. I was telling James, we were here rehearsing and trying things out. And we were like, stop, let's leave it for the concert. It's amazing. It's magic. It is. We don't know what makes that magic. I'm afraid. I'm not sure. Oh, is this? Because sometimes you can get groups of musicians, excellent musicians, but it doesn't necessarily happen. You understand? I don't think it's something to do with technique, like only. Of course, you have to have technical skills and so on, but it's not only that. It's something else in there. Yeah, it's like when you find a partner. It's not only beauty, physical beauty. Yeah, it's not financial, material stuff. It's something else, yeah? Or like when, you know, you find an artistic director, it doesn't necessarily work just like that. You understand? You gotta, to be in that position, you gotta have the mind to oversee things, but also be brave to go like, okay, let's break it. And, you know, so.
Or be incredibly lucky. I think the next question is about the range of genres that you're pulling together here tonight. I mean, this your idea of global music. We don't talk about world music when we have conversations. We talk about global music, because that really is a truer reflection of the kind of the variety of things that you're going to hear tonight, particularly that Adriano is going to present. And just I often say the same thing to visiting artists here. I say three things. I say, number one, we have an absolutely wonderful audience who will really listen to what you are doing. And, you know, when I describe this venue to visiting artists, I say, you will see the whites of the eyes of the artists on stage. You will be close. You will almost feel them breathe at times. And that's, you know, another wonderful thing. The next thing I tend to say is take some risks. Feel that you can take some risks for your evening, because there are other venues where maybe you can't take as many risks. This is one where I think you can. And the last thing, of course, is I say to enjoy yourself, because that's an important part of this too. And of course, the pleasure for me is in having the opportunity to get to know and work with people like Adriano, who bring this inspiration and these incredible artists into this hall and just make such wonderful music for us. Anyway, so going back to the question, how do you manage to kind of bring together effectively quite different genres? You know, on stage tonight we've got three very different flavors, very different personalities, three different countries represented. So how do you make that work musically?
I think we do it all together. It's the three of us. It's really openness. It's well, maybe, you know what's going on in the world now with all this, you know, people trying to separate us, right? I can see it in the UK, but I can see it in Brazil as well. Different parts of the world, this is happening now, right? Okay, we are here, you are there, this, that, and that. Personally, I think it is going backwards, because it's wrong to think we are stronger being separated. It's the other way around. It's togetherness, respecting, of course, you know, understanding, but it is together. And I think when I think of classical music, and this has been wonderful to be working with Joanna, because she's so, like James, open. And yes, Adriano, let's do this, let's do that. And we, you know, working with lots of classical musicians. I am not a classical musician. Like, you know, I studied classical music, but I went onto another direction. But it all works. You know, lots of classical music, actually, lots of the composers in classical music, they based their compositions on folk music. And then we have today all this separation. What's going on? You know, classical musicians used to improvise a lot in the past. And then suddenly, no. But then when you find musicians who rescue that tradition, musicians who are still open to bring those aspects with them, independent of what style of music they play, and they are open to it, then I think global music works. And likewise, you know, jazz musicians being open as well to play in different ways and different styles. Folk musicians being open as well, you know, maybe sometimes, you know, you need the tradition. It's great, the tradition, but also looking forward and being open to it. Because cultures, they are dynamics. They evolve, they change with the time. It is... I find fascinating, like when I think, like, you know, The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky was, you know, the first time they performed, you know, they were like, people didn't like it at all, right? Tomatoes and things being thrown and so on. And now it's like a masterpiece. So you understand, it's, yeah, I leave that with you. It's like we need to have the tradition, but we also need to go forward. And when we find that balance, then I think global music works.
And I guess this is one of the great joys of Wiltshire Music Centre, because we have such a varied programme here that, of a week or of a fortnight, we might see an amazing folk band, a jazz musician, a classical artist, a young musician. We get all these different flavours kind of contributing to what we're doing here. And certainly as an artistic director, it's been the most enormous eye-opener, because I think when I was once a musician, when you train to become a musician, you can end up becoming a little bit narrow. Certainly as a classical musician, that could be a criticism. But the big learning for me is that you have to open your ears and your eyes and actually spend some time listening to other genres. It's been one of the most enjoyable things about being in this role, is that I get to hear a different kind of music presented by a different kind of artist pretty much every night of the week. Now, one thing I just wanted to ask you, Adriano, because it's about time, I know, is working with, of course, composers and spontaneous improvising musicians, it's very hard to pin them down to a program. So I literally have no idea what Adriano's performing tonight. I try to at least find out a little bit about what the program's going to be, but I'm afraid I can't tell you anything, so I'm hoping you might be able to illuminate us.
Well, yes, we are performing a few original pieces by each one of us. Senhor Zezinho d'Angola is a piece I've written, and also another one called Assim. I recorded Assim, it's from my first album, and Senhor Zezinho d'Angola is from my second album. From Carlos Malta, we are playing Logune De. It's a piece that he wrote, wonderful, wonderful piece, uplifting. And we play a couple of pieces also from Hugh Warren. One is called Muli Baby, really, really wonderful. And the other one is called Pig. And then another one by Carlos Malta, actually, Tupizinho. Tupi, it's the language spoken in Brazil by the indigenous people, right? So Tupizinho is like a little Tupi. It's really sweet. And we have Vinicius Barros coming as a guest. And then within that, there will be some improvisations, some things that we will be creating on the spot. And one more piece will be 1-0, 1-0, because in Brazil we cannot help it but talk about football everywhere we go. It's a wonderful piece by Pixinguinha. He is a composer. He passed away. He's one of the major composers in Brazil. He is a music style called chorinho, so little cry, chorinho. And actually, people refer to this style as a Brazilian jazz. So there, in this style, you can really see the influence of Baroque music in Brazilian music, together with the African rhythms. So you will see it. And there is a little percussion surprise there for you.
Well, I wasn't worried, but it's nice to know what's coming up. Now, just thinking about your work as a kind of year-round touring, performing, composing artist, how do you balance all the other things in your life? How do you make time for family, for all the, just looking after yourself as well? This can't be easy. I mean, often a different venue, several nights of the week traveling. I know you've been in Finland this week. So how do you kind of cope with all that?
I don't. It's there is a wonderful say from this as a quote from this Brazilian singer-songwriter Gilberto Gil. He says that balance is unstable. Yeah, as soon as you find it, you lose it. But no, you don't. But you're always trying to balance it, right? You're always trying to find the balance there, and it is hard. Yes. Actually, a student of mine this week was saying, it was like, so we playing now, we practicing next week, we rehearsing. I mean, when are we resting? When? And I'm like, listen, as a musician, you gotta pick like the week for you to rest. You have to be really determined, because there will be lots of work coming your way. And you have to make sure that you also leave time for you to rest, because otherwise it's not productive and it's not health. And I think for family it's the same. But as a musician, you know, you're a freelancer, so sometimes you cannot just go like, okay, I'm not to do that work, because you don't know when the next work is gonna come, right? Of course, after a while you do know things always come and so on, but you have to find your balance there. I try and prioritize family, because if I am not with my family enough, I don't function. You understand? I think in music, love is right inside of it, and I have lots of love from my family, and you know, it's life. It's life. I don't know, nowadays we are, well, I'm saying we, but I think society is so instructed and driven towards work. It's work all the time, work all the time, work, work, work. You see people coming out of work and still working on the tube, still working, you know. So you're driving back home, you're still texting on your phone. Yes, I'm going to do this tomorrow. But wait a moment, when you stop, and why is working taking priority over family, over social? I don't know how long we have. There is a story.
1 minute.
Okay, so no, it's a bit long, this story. So
Well, maybe we save that for your next residency, Adriano. So speaking of which, what have you got coming up? What's next in the diary? And what would you like to do next here, if that's not too big a question, just in the last minute? I mean, this venue, we don't do you have the key to the venue, but in the case of Adriano, metaphorically, that is certainly the case. You know, the more time we have to spend with you here, the better from my point of view, and I sincerely hope you come back. So maybe that's one to think about.
It is a pleasure being here. I have really enjoyed the residency here, the artistic residency, so thanks ever so much for having me here. Audience has been really amazing. Thank you all. And, you know, Dan, the staff, everybody is really, really, really warm and really helpful. You can see, I can feel the sense of community here, and this is amazing, yeah? So, as a next thing, actually, you know, I did a gig here as part of a tour with a piano player called Benjamin Taubkin a while ago, which was improvised, or completely improvised. And some of the concerts were recorded. I don't think we recorded one here, but some of the concerts were recorded. And we are launching our second album. It's a live album of the duo. So this is coming now, and this is gonna be out very soon. And I would love to collaborate, for instance, with the youth orchestra that you have here. I've been collaborating with a few orchestras in the UK, and possibly with the big band that you have, and something involving dance. I'm not sure what yet, but something involving dance. That would be really wonderful.
I get all my best programming ideas in these talks. And now all I can say is thank you, Adriano, so much for giving such insight and sharing such warmth with all of us. It's a real joy to hear you speaking like this. So please, gentlemen, if you'd help me thank Adriano.
Thank you. Thank you.